Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 4 of the Ghossein podcast, the show where I bring on some of the most successful and talented people from the Ottawa area, and I pick their brains and tackle a new subject every single show. I know it's been a while since the last episode, but been a little bit busy with the whole real estate game. The market in Ottawa has been nuts, so I've been staying busy with that. But nonetheless, this is worth the wait. This episode, we have a very good friend of mine, Joshua Reyes. Joshua is the part owner of LVD Fitness. He is a solid real estate agent, and he is a master, and I say master, of branding. And that's the subject we're going to be tackling today. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. Get your pen and paper ready because there is a lot of value in this show. And let's go. All right, guys, welcome back to the new episode of the Ghossein podcast. I'm super excited because I got my man Josh Reyes on the show today. Josh, how's it going, man?
Good. How's it going?
It's going, buddy. It's going. Thank you so much for jumping on here to do this podcast with me today. How you been doing during this whole COVID situation, man?
I've been good overall. Obviously, there's your ups and downs with like business and also with life. Like you don't know if everything's gonna shut down, if it's gonna go to like an apocalypse type thing. So it's funny. In the beginning, I was watching what's it called, Doomsday Preppers, and it's like the best show. It's like, man, I need to be one. Like we're just trying to like plan out where our dugout's gonna be if everything goes to shit. So yeah, ups and downs, but overall can't complain.
That's good, man. That's good. And you're actually you're a puppy dad too. Pretty recent.
How's
that going?
So yeah, so COVID baby, we did get one. She's been good. Honestly, she's been awesome. She's like the perfect dog. Initially she is a German Shepherd Husky mix, so we were thinking she was going to be like a medium-sized dog, but then it wasn't until later we found out she has a little bit of beagle in her, so okay. She actually won't be as big as we thought, which is kind of nice. So her Instagram is Tiny Big Dog because she just looks like a big dog that's like shrunk.
We'll definitely tag that at the end there. Tiny Big Dog.
For sure.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, for those of the viewers who don't know who Josh Reyes is, you want to talk a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Currently, I'm a real estate agent here in Ottawa, helping millennials find and sell real estate. My journey in entrepreneurship started, I would say, maybe like high school, but I didn't know it was entrepreneurship. Back in the day, it was just a way to make more money, and I just thought it was just cool, and it was a good way to make some extra cash on the side. But so in high school, I had a couple side hustles. I've been cutting my own hair since like grade 7, and then my friends noticed. So then they were like, "Can you cut my hair?" I was like, "Why not?" So then I started cutting my friends' hair here and there. And remember back in the day, like Blackberries were the main phone in high school. So like I would order housings from China, like different casings for the phone. So instead of a Blackberry, I would make it like red, blue, green, whatever it is.
Wrap it kind of thing.
Kind of, but like instead of a wrap, I just like take the shell off. And
yeah. Actually, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'd get those and do those for people, and just like little like side things I did for fun. And I went to Carleton for business, did that. I started off in accounting and then ended up graduating with IS, so more the tech side of business. But all of my electives were entrepreneurship and marketing because that's what I found the most interesting. And then in university, I started my first business, LVD Fitness, which is an online apparel fitness company. We grew that to, it was great. Like we grew that to our full-time gigs, learned a ton from that business. And it was definitely a major stepping stone to businesses moving forward.
Nice. And talk to me a little bit about like your childhood. Do you feel like the way you're brought up had anything to do with the hustle, like in high school, for example, the Blackberries and stuff like that?
Definitely, definitely. My mom is a straight hustler. She works super, super hard. I would say she wears the pants in the family. Like she works her full-time job, but like she has her like cleaning business on the side. And my dad pretty much was always there, like cooking food, taking us to basketball and all of our sporting things. But I really looked up to my mom, and to me it was normal, like seeing her like grind it out like that. And when I talk to other people and they're like, no, like your mom's like crazy for doing that, but it just goes to show that like if you work hard enough, you get what you want. And I'm super thankful for that, because my mom came to Canada with pretty much nothing, right? And she worked like 2 3 jobs just to give me and my sister the average middle income Canadian family life. And because of that, I did have an overall pretty good childhood, which gave me the potential to just like look at other things, right? Like I wasn't really stressing about like our next meal. I pretty much got what I wanted. So for that, I'm super thankful. And I definitely feel like being in that position gave me the opportunity to just like look at other avenues, because I wasn't stressing over other essential things.
That's awesome, man. And you mentioned you're a realtor. So, how did you know you want to become a realtor? Like, what was the transition into real estate for you? Like,
Yeah, so the thought actually started in high school. So from like middle school to high school, I wanted to be like a mechanical engineer,
okay,
mainly because I like cars. And I thought like you just design cars all day. And then when I realized that's not actually what a mechanical, well, like that's like one part of a mechanical engineer. I was like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And I wasn't like, I liked sciences, but I wasn't like the best at it. So I was like,
yeah,
if I can't do it in high school, and if I don't like it, I'm not going to pursue it long term. So I was like looking at my options, and I was like, oh, like real estate's pretty cool. Like people are pretty successful in real estate. But then I got turned off by the whole 100% commission thing. Like I never really heard of that model. I've always heard of like salary or hourly pay. So I didn't really look much further into it. And then kind of like I looked at my family, I'm like, who's the most successful? And it was my aunt, who's an accountant. So I asked her advice, and she's like, yeah, go to business school, get your accounting degree. And I was like, sure, why not? So that's the route I took. Fast forward through business school, and after my first business, I realized I didn't want to sell t-shirts for the rest of my life. And then I dug down and I was like, hey, what do I actually want? It's just freedom. If I master something, can I make a lot of money off of it? And just like opportunity with like investing, and like there's like all different avenues within real estate. And then the biggest thing was I looked at my skill sets, and that would be like marketing, sales, being a people person. I'm like, that just like aligns with a successful realtor anyways. And again, being born and raised in Ottawa, going to school in Ottawa, I feel like I've grown a good sphere of influence. So I was like, let me just give real estate a shot. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
that's good, man. You've been killing it too.
I know I've been super fortunate for my personal brand. I tell you that that is the number one reason why I'm a successful realtor right now. Because without it, I would still I'd have no leads essentially, right? And I'd be building from the ground up. And honestly, at this point, I would have joined a team if I didn't have the leads coming in.
And that's why I want to bring you on the show because you're the brand master, my man.
I
So,
try, I try.
so talk to me a little bit about your unique skills. Like, what do you feel like made you so successful in terms of skills, either as a real estate agent or just as an entrepreneur in general?
I think it would be like seeing opportunities. One thing I noticed in real estate that it's very old school and traditional, and no one in real estate was really doing anything with social media. Like it still blows my mind that people like it's what they post on social media isn't actually for the clients, and it's more for their own like ego. It's like, why would you like? It's one thing to post like a sold property, but it's like as a consumer, I'm like, well, great, congrats, it's sold, but I can't even buy that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like you showing off, and you can only do that so much until it's just so redundant. It's just another sold kitchen, right? So for me, I wanted to turn the tables, and I wanted to just provide content for the consumer, right? So if there's a realtor and I'm not interested in buying a house yet, I wouldn't be following realtors who just post sold, because it's like, okay, I know they sell houses, but I would follow a realtor who provides me value that would help me buy a house, right? And then that's just my long-term play of providing value And then eventually, once they're ready, they would come to me because they feel like I provided so much value. They would just want me to handle that transaction for them. And I guess just like being empathetic and being a good listener. That's just it comes down to being a people person, and we are in a people business. So definitely in it for relationships as opposed to a transaction.
Love it, man. I love that line you just said at the end there.
Yeah.
So talk to me about one thing or a couple things that you wish you knew when you started your career that would have helped you out a lot quicker, like get to the point you're at today.
Like overall as a whole, and like entrepreneurship and not just like real estate.
Yeah, either or, doesn't matter.
One thing, can you say that again?
Just one thing you wish you knew when you started your career that you know now through experience that would have helped you get to the point you're at now a lot quicker.
Get me to where I'm at quicker. That's a good question. Just like one thing is managing finances. Definitely as an
Well, that's
entrepreneur,
huge.
there's no guaranteed income. And man, like finances is so intense with like taxes, like HST, like doing all that stuff. And you don't really get taught that in school. And I've been learning everything through just doing it, like going through the process. Like this will be my fourth year filing our taxes as like self-employed or business owners. But like that first year, I did not know anything, right? And like it definitely slowed down my growth, I guess. But I mean, it was for the better, I think, because um, if I just had a bunch of money in the beginning, I would have just been doing a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have or not accounting for it properly. So like slow and steady definitely helped. Yeah, I think learning cash flow because as an entrepreneur, your cash is your air, right? The second you run out of cash, you're pretty much
You're gone.
yeah, or you're holding your breath under credit, right? But then that has a limited air supply that's going to run out eventually. So yeah.
100%. What's one of your biggest failures that you went through and what did you learn from
Finances.
it?
Going back to LVD, so 2018 was that was like our big year. Like that was going to be the first year that me, my partner Mallory, were going to go 12 months being full-time entrepreneurs. Because the year before 2017 is when we quit our jobs and started paying ourselves.
Mhm.
But yeah, 2018 was going to be that year. We had these like major goals, kind of mapped out budgeting and expenses and stuff. And then come the end of the year, we were in the hole. That was a lot of things. We didn't hit certain sales targets because of like border crossing and things that were like kind of out of our control. And then also just like spending a lot on marketing and travel. But the biggest thing was people were like, pay yourselves first, right? Or as an entrepreneur, you want to pay yourself. So like when you're working in the business. So we were like, we just threw out a number. We're like, let's do like a 35K salary each, right? But 35K salary doesn't seem that bad. But when there's two of you, that's 70K.
Yeah.
So like overall business wise, we were kind of like broke even. But the second you add both of our salaries, we were like in the hole, right? Like, and we should have done it gradually. And because we were in the hole at the end of that year, we had to like reassess everything. We had to pull back a lot of our marketing initiatives. We had to schedule launches just to make sure we could pay our Amex bill. And it just wasn't that fun. But also at the same time, we were falling out of alignment with our t-shirt and online apparel and powerlifting company anyways. So that was one of the reasons where we reassessed where we wanted to be as business people. But one of the biggest things was just just like monitoring finances, just like the lag in cash flow, right? Like we would pay for inventory up front, but we wouldn't do sales till like 2 months later. But then that's on an Amex that's due in like 30 days. So sometimes you look at the bank and you're like, okay, I'm good. And then you close your bank and then you spend on other things, but you don't realize that the money in your bank is already spent on like
Yeah.
credit cards and stuff. So like just managing cash flow definitely was one of my biggest mistakes and not learning it more, right? Like I was deep dive into analytics, learn about e-commerce and nothing about finances, where I should have been deep diving into finances as well, right? So definitely learn your money.
For sure. And so let's say that someone just graduated high school, just graduated university, and wants to pursue a career in either entrepreneurship or real estate. Do you have any pieces of advice or one piece of advice that you can give them to help them kick their career off on the right foot?
Yeah, I would say meet with a bunch of different people in a bunch of different industries, and ultimately figure out what you want to do long term and see if that aligns. What I realized is that for me, like I just want to live comfortably. I want flexible hours. So like it's kind of generic what I want long term in life. But when you think about it, you could do that in any business, right? Like you could own a coffee shop, be super successful, and you could have that, or you could do online apparel, or you could do real estate. You could just, it's crazy the businesses people make these days to be able to just live that flexible lifestyle, right? So it's hard because it comes down to the person and figuring out what you want to do day to day, long term. And it's just pretty much figuring out that vehicle to be where you want to be. But there's a lot of different options. That's why I say you should explore all of them. Um, and yeah, and pick the one that fits.
Love it, man. And along the road to success, we always have like one or two people that like played a huge role in our success by either guiding us or taking us under their wing. Who were those people for you, and what did they do to help you?
Yeah, for me, it's my entrepreneurship prof slash mentor, Roland from Carleton University. So I started off in one of his classes in second or his third year entrepreneurship class. And then I ended up TAing for him. So I was a teacher's assistant. And then during his class, a lot of the projects and stuff that we had to do, I just based it off of LVD. He thought it was really cool. Mal and I met with him here and there, and he kind of like started mentoring us in the beginning. I know one of the things he mentioned was, so like what's next after LVD, like what's your next business, or like we should start thinking about our next business. And when he first said that, we were both like thrown off. We're like, what? Like LVD is our business and it's our
Yeah.
only business, and that's going to be what we do for the rest of
What
our
are you
lives.
talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, we were kind of shook. But then after that night, we were just thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, like it doesn't have to be our first or last business, right? It could just be that stepping stone. But then he helped a lot of helping us through some challenges we had with LVD, getting us to that next level, but also personally, like how to be financially free. The thing I like about Roland is he's only an entrepreneurship prof, so he's not a full-time professor at Carleton. So he's an actual entrepreneur who's built and sold businesses. So like I had a ton of respect for him,
So he's done
and
what
pretty
he's
much
teaching.
exactly. And then he was teaching us what he did, but also what he knew, he wished he would have known at our age. And that definitely shed a lot of light on our perspective on business and finances moving forward. So he was a big one. So that's definitely someone who I would attribute some of our success to.
That's
Um,
awesome, man.
and then the other one, honestly, I would say is Mallory. Like together as like business people and also like a couple, like we always push each other. I have these like crazy goals, and she always like grounds me, kind of makes me go halfway to something that's a little bit more realistic. So yeah, day to day in the trenches, definitely her. Like she keeps me accountable. I learn a lot from her. We push each other. So definitely Roland and Mal.
Love it, man. All right, you ready to dive into our topic of the day, which is branding?
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, so first of all, for those people that don't know what branding is, you want to just quickly define branding and talk about a little bit why it's so important, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, branding is essentially your values, your characteristics, and pretty much what people talk about behind your back or when you're not there, right? Your branding is your voice when you're not speaking, and people get it confused with marketing. Whereas marketing is part of branding or like a tool to help build your brand, but it isn't branding itself. Marketing is just creating awareness for your brand. So, and to answer your question, why it's so important, it's the same thing as asking yourself, why is core values important? Why is your characteristics or your character important, right? Like that's essentially what a brand is. It's like who you are.
Beautiful. And how do you go about building a brand like from scratch? You know, like, let's say, you know, you weren't huge on social media before, because I know that's one of the main tools people build brands with. How do you start building a brand, and are there any steps or specific steps you can take to build the right brand?
Yeah, I guess it would just come down to figuring out your values, what you want people to do, what you really care for. But in the beginning, building it is just all marketing. It's just all awareness. So you start off with whatever that is, like paid advertising, marketing campaigns, word of mouth if you don't want to pay for any marketing, which is fine too. But then eventually, so if you have if your brand's here because it's brand new, you got to market like 110%. And then eventually it's going to flip flop, right? Like eventually your brand is going to be marketing itself because of your community, and your awareness is already there. And then eventually, like, you might not even have to do much branding or marketing anymore because your brand is just so strong that it just speaks for itself. But yeah, in the beginning, it's all about spreading awareness about who you are, what you believe in. And if you want to think of it as a visual aspect, you just got to get your logo in out there, right? Like somewhere like Nike, like anyone knows what that check mark is now,
Hmm.
right? Without even saying anything. But in the beginning with LVD, we made sure like it was everywhere in our social media posts, like when we would be wearing it on our cars, on our laptops, like spreading awareness. And I know there was examples of people saying like, I see this, like some guy came up to me in the past and he's like, where is your shirt from? I see this brand everywhere. Like I was in class, I see it in the gym, I saw someone drive by with it. It's like, what is it? And it's funny that he asked me because I could give him our
Yeah.
story, but I guarantee there's other people who ask that to some of our customers. And again, since we built a brand, our customers are speaking for us. Our customers are being like, hey, this is LVD. They're like powerlifting apparel. They give back. Mal and Josh are super cool. Like they just give that story for us, right? So definitely awareness, 100%.
Awesome. And what kind of questions do you have to ask yourself when you're building a brand? Like, for example, with LVD, like what questions did you ask yourself to make sure that you're building the brand you wanted to build?
Yeah, I guess you would have to look at setting yourself apart because if you try to build a brand that's already kind of out there, it's just like one, people are confused, or it's like why, like you would just never succeed because if you're trying to copy Nike and do everything Nike does, you're not really gonna succeed. But if you try to do something a little bit different, a little bit your own way, that'll definitely help you stand out. But it comes down to again who you are, and what you want to represent, right? So for LVD, we wanted to represent the minimalist powerlifter or like the modern day powerlifter, because back in the day, powerlifters were like tatted guys with big beards and steroids, whereas today, like I'm a powerlifter. When you look at me in the street, like you don't think I could squat or deadlift a lot, but then when you see me in competition, it's just like, oh, this guy's actually strong. And then we realize there's other people like us who are just like into the sport, into strength, into the pursuit of a PR. And then that's kind of the aspect we want to portray within our brand, right? Just like modern minimalist powerlifter.
Yeah, building a brand is kind of like building your own community in a way, right?
100%. That's all it is. And one of the biggest tips for building a brand is to not build a brand that doesn't align with you. Like there's brands and companies I see out there that are so fake. Like the brand is like here, but the owners are like here. And I'm like, once you get to know the owners, I'm just so turned off by their company. I don't care what their company does now.
Hmm.
I just know their owners are shit people. And I'm like, I don't even want to support you. And it's like they're just people looking to capitalize on an opportunity, kind of like have this mask or whatever, and just try and try and like make money off people. But and it's exhausting, right? Like trying to be fake 24/7
Oh,
is just
100%.
exhausting. So you'll just have a lot more fun and it'll be a lot more natural just having a brand that also represents what you represent.
That's awesome. And so that's a good mistake you mentioned. Any other mistakes you see when people are trying to brand themselves?
Oh wow. um any other mistakes? I don't really know right now. Maybe if one pops up again.
Yeah, for sure, man. So talk a little bit about the brands you've built. So I know LVD, and you mentioned your real estate brand, LVD, sold by Josh. There it is. So talk about that a little bit, each one separately, if you can, and
Well,
what
because
you
what
did.
one actually leads into the other.
Perfect. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so with LVD, we knew we just needed to market, spread awareness. And in the beginning days, we would just like go on Instagram, we would look at hashtags, and we would just like and comment on people's photos, just to say like it wasn't even about the brand. It was just like, hey, that's an awesome PR or a great squat. Like I love seeing your progress. And then people were like, oh, LVD is pretty cool. Like they're supporting me. I want to support them. They'll check us out. Um, and our biggest thing in the beginning was just building that community, right? Like we just wanted to build a community of like-minded people chasing the same goals of PRs. And then from there, it just like started bringing other people in because they wanted to be part of our community too, which just kept escalating the brand to this point where we were recognized pretty much globally for our sport, which was really, really cool to see. We had like sales in China, or Japan, sorry, obviously in the States and in Europe. And that's just the power of social media, right? You can like reach a ton of people in any niche. Like you'd be surprised how many like there's a niche for everything. And
Mhm.
there's a business that's crushing it in every single niche out there. So if you want to start a business, just look at a niche that you're comfortable with and that you know a lot about, and then just like find an opportunity, because nowadays you can literally reach anyone worldwide, right? So before, if there was only 100 powerlifters in Ottawa, or let's say Ontario, that's your market for
Mhm.
business, right? But as an online brand, if there's 100 in like every province across the country, and then in the States, and then in other countries, like that's like tens of thousands of people that now you get access to, right? Even though it's such a small niche, there's a lot of opportunity there. Sorry, that was a tangent. Going back to building LVD, yeah, it just came down to building that organic brand. We didn't start doing paid advertising until the very end, and that was just like a cherry on top. We didn't depend on our paid advertising. It was just on word of mouth and just the brand. We did do some sponsored. We had sponsored athletes who would help spread our brand for us and give us a little bit more street cred and credibility. Be like, okay, these guys are legit. If these top athletes are representing them, then I guess I like them too. And that's a big thing, right? So when you have a sponsored athlete, you got to be very selective, because that athlete, whatever they do, represents you and your
Your
brand.
brand.
So
Yeah.
if they do something wrong, they're going to associate that with your brand. So we were very selective picking the right athletes for us. And yeah, it just really worked out that way.
Yeah,
And
I
then
remember. Go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead. No, no,
I
no,
was just
go
saying, I
ahead.
remember it like I was at Good Life, I was at Movati, and it was popping off. Everyone had the LVD shirts, you know?
Yeah,
I
it was
went to
really cool to
university with
see.
that guy.
Yeah, I'll never get tired of seeing someone with some like our apparel that's a random, like I don't even know who you are. Like that's like the best feeling.
Yeah.
But then how LVD led into real estate is with the uh, the business brand. Mal and I also grew our personal brand. And in the beginning, it was just a strong power lifter. Like it was just me sharing my workouts, sharing powerlifting tips, and I think Mal was the same too. And then so we grew a following through that. Um, and then with once I got into real estate, I already had a big following. Obviously, not everyone in my following is a potential client, because people follow me from, let's say, like Florida, LA, right? They're not going to buy a home in Ottawa. I mean,
Mhm.
that'd be great if they did, because they would come to me, but chances are they're probably not. So um, yeah, but then building this brand definitely helped, by already knowing how to build this brand, because we learned about content, we learned about like social media. Like Instagram was our bread and butter. Like we knew everything about social media. When like updates would come out on like new things to the algorithm, we would always try different things. And then we just know what works, and then that's kind of how I shifted it to real estate and to my personal brand.
Nice. Awesome, man. So, what kind of brands do you follow and what kind of brands do you admire?
The number one brand currently that I follow and admire has to be Lululemon. Last year, when I started off in real estate, I wanted a part-time job just to give me some supplementary income. So I worked part-time at Lululemon, and I was like blown away by their company culture and how they train their employees. I read the book on the founder that talked about their process and their journey to where they are now. And I just have a lot of respect for the company and what they've been doing. And they're Canadian too, right? Which makes it even more cool. But like the black stretchy pants or like that logo is so recognizable now, like all over. And the thing for me about Lululemon that goes one step further is they're all about the customers and their experience, right? So in today's age, people are only shopping online. It's like retail is like going out. But when I was working at Lululemon, it was bumping. Like there was people there who shop online, but also shop in store. And it's all about the experience, right? It's all about going in, learning about the products from a person, trying them on. Like I've had times where like these group of older women would come in and they would just that was their outing. Like they would go to Lululemon to just try on different things. Like they would be laughing, they'd be like telling jokes. It was just like a great time. And I'm like, that is the reason why they are doing so well still, despite everyone going online, right? Um, and then again, they also do stuff for the community. So they're more than just an apparel company. They do classes, they do workshops, they support their employees a lot. So a ton of respect for Lululemon. And if you guys want to deep dive a little more, I definitely suggest just like looking into their company culture and stuff. So yeah, they're like top brand right now for me.
Awesome, man. And speaking of brands, when as a realtor, you have to select which brokerage you want to work with, and that's also like it's about the brand, right? So, how did you go about picking the brokerage you're at, Blue Panda, right?
Yeah.
And what were you looking for in different brokerages, brand wise, or what they offered, so that to help you make your decision?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me, it was a bigger aspect now looking back into it than I knew before, and that was the ability to brand myself. So even though Blue Panda had their own brand, they had their own colors, they had their own logo, I still had the opportunity to brand myself however I wanted. So if I wanted black and gold as my main two colors, I could do that. Whereas if I was with like Remax or like I feel like a bigger brokerage, it's a little bit harder to brand yourself because they already have such a strong brand. It's like someone would drive by and they're like, why is Remax like black and gold? Like they would
Yeah.
be confused. Or like I would look at a bunch of Remax signs and they'd kind of like all the same, and which is fine, but I always wanted my own little twist to it. Right. So that was a big thing that I wanted from Blue Panda. But a guy coming from more of like the startup world, the local, I did like the angle that Blue Panda was from Ottawa. So I was intrigued by the boutique style brokerages. And then just like the company culture, like open doors, there were dogs in the office. But what really sold it for me was the people at the brokerage. I really got along instantly with a couple of the other agents, the owners of the brokerage. And I could just genuinely see myself being friends with everyone as opposed to like having to be friends with someone because they work with
Yeah.
you. So I think that was like one of the biggest things for me. And I thought it was cool to be a part of something that would grow, right? Like grow from Ottawa.
Awesome, man. All right, you ready to dive into the quick 5 questions?
Okay, go
All
for it.
right, let's do it. All right, the first question is, what's one thing that you're grateful for now that pre-pandemic, you took for granted and didn't really appreciate as much?
Coffee shops. I miss working at coffee shops, just being around other people, meeting new people, trying new coffee shops, and pretty much getting out of the house, right? Like, as someone
I
who works
know.
from home normally, the coffee shop was my opportunity to leave the house and change things up. And then now that when you're like stuck at home, it's like, oh, nothing else
What's
to
going
do.
on? Are those opening up now, phase three?
I Yeah, I think so. I think with the old businesses, you could just have stuff inside.
Because
But
I
I
think,
know there's a rule with like capacity, so you can only be like 30% full. So I don't know how that looks if that's only two people or three people. Maybe you get one table. I don't even know.
Yeah, you have to be like a morning person and
Yeah,
get there early and
yeah,
just spend the
yeah.
whole day there.
Seriously.
All right, question number two. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
10 years. What was that? 36? Damn. I see
We're getting old.
myself, I know, I see myself with an established real estate portfolio, have a small team, maybe an assistant and like a buyer's agent, but also starting my next business. Like maybe I want to start something else. Definitely always looking for the next opportunity. And I think that'd be really cool. By 36, I would ideally like to be in my dream home by the water. But Ottawa is probably where we're going to end up, because both families are here. Obviously, real estate, it's very city specific. And I love the city. There's a ton of potential. So I don't see why we would leave.
Awesome. All right, question number three. What is one book that you read that changed your life and why?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my life. That kind of got the seed planted for real estate, but also changed my perspective on money and investing.
Love it. Question number four. What legacy do you want to leave behind when all is said and
Ooh,
done?
that's a good question. Honestly, for me, it's just helping people essentially. But it comes down to helping people on like the lower end. I don't want to, no, that's a bad way to say it. Not the lower end,
I know
but
what you
like,
mean.
yeah, yeah,
That
like
need the help the most.
yeah, like personally, like I feel like worried for millennials these days because I'm like, how are you gonna afford a home? The way home prices are going up now, it actually stresses me out, right? And I want to help them buy a home. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, oh, like I kind of like luxury listings, and I'm like, oh, that'd be nice to get into like luxury real estate, which would be cool. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I want to help the little guy, like I want to help those people get into real estate and then build from there, right? So ultimately, legacy is to help the little guy.
Love it. And the last question is, where can people find and follow Josh Reyes?
So Instagram, follow my personal brand. It's at Josh with two H's. I know I wanna get that other one out of there, but Josh with two H's, Reyes, Reyes, or my website, joshreyes.com with one H. That time. I know, confusing. I'm trying to work on it, but yeah, that's where you can check me out.
Perfect, man. I love it. Thank you so much for jumping on this, man. You really hit us with a lot of value today. And we got to hit up a coffee shop soon together. All right.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, man. Take it easy.
See ya.